Welcome back, guys. I'm Zell, and it's time for another Drinkin' and Thinkin' with Zell. So you've got 9 seconds to get your drink of choice, and I'll be right back with you. Alright, guys. The 2017 models are announced. That doesn't mean they're on the street yet, but they're announced. So we're going to look through some of them. Some of the highlights of what I saw out of SHOT Show that kind of piqued my interest. And, we already have one knife from the 2017 models that's arriving for people, the 560 Freak from Benchmade. And I have some opinions on it, but just an update, I think it's really going to be a good one, guys. I am rather impressed so far. Not quite ready for a full opinion yet, but we'll get that in the next week or two, maybe 3. And I'm going to have some coffee and then we'll get started. Alright, we're going to do this off the iPad. I know it's not ideal, but hey, it's what I've got. First thing we can see here is the link is going to come in blue aluminum. But that's not terribly interesting. Kind of neat, but it's still just a link. And we've seen that before. This one is interesting. This Deadline comes with a nice Warncliffe blade. I kind of like the coloration. We've got a deep carry pocket clip, and we've got an interesting lock system that I can't really show you in these pictures, but I want to get one of these and get a look at it, get it apart, see how that lock system works. And it's a pretty big blade, if I remember right, too. Yeah, 3.8-inch blade, so this one's going to be interesting. Another one that should be interesting is this Fraction. This is a smaller blade. It's right at 3 inches, I believe. 2 3/4. And I really like the design. We'll have to wait till one comes in and get a look at it to see how much I really like this blade. I may not. There's some things I can see I'm not a big fan of. But it's also a manual blade with a flipper. So we'll see how well Kershaw can pull that off in one of their Chinese-made blades. From there, we have the Leak. It's going to come in carbon fiber, which is kind of cool. They're listing it here as CPM 154, and I hope that's the steel. I really do, because rumors, I think some of the SHOT Show stuff said that it was going to be S35VN. I would much rather see it in CPM 154. We'll see how that goes, see how the price is. It's probably going to be a liner lock, so we'll have to see how Kershaw did that as well. But I'm interested to see that one. We have the Agile. This is a smaller Hinderer MP1. Now, it's only like a 2 3/4-inch blade. Yeah, 2 3/4-inch blade. But the cool part here is not, it's a cool little knife, but it's the modular backspacing system that Hinderer uses. You'll be able to change out from a bottle opener to a lanyard hole flathead screwdriver, and also to just a straight lanyard hole, which I don't know if it's really a big deal, but some people are going to think that's neat, so why not? And from there, we have the Dividend, and it's going to come in a FRN type material, I believe it is, maybe G10, and aluminum. And this is a made in the USA Kershaw, and it's got a sheep's foot blade. I'm really into that. It's 420HC. I'm kind of disappointed to see that, but we'll see how those come out whenever they arrive, and we'll get a quick look here and see if that was G10 or plastic. Yeah, it's glass-filled nylon on the black one. From there, the Almar knives. Now, these Almar knives are very interesting to me because Almar uses AUS 8, and most of his blades are at $100 or more. So we have 8CR13 and these blades from Kershaw. And in my opinion, 8CR13 MOV is a slightly better steel than AUS 8 for everyday carry. Slightly harder and has slightly better edge retention. AUS 8 is a great steel. It shines up really good. It holds a really fine edge, but it also dulls rather quickly. So I'm really excited to see these. Kershaw is showing them $49.99. And I'm going to guess that we're looking at $30 or so for these blades. and they're speed safe with a flipper, and they've got that Almar design. So I think those are going to be really interesting, and it's interesting to me that Almar's putting them in competition with his own blades with a similar steel. From there, we have the Vetter. And the Vetter has a very interesting sheep's foot design blade. We got a piece of G10 overlay on the hammered stainless below it. And very nice knife, speed safe of course. And we have a 3 1/4 inch blade, so it's going to be a smaller knife, but still kind of cool looking. We have the Flitch, and the Flitch has a really cool looking blade. We'll have to see one of these in person to see how it really plays out. G10 handle, and it's going to be 3 1/4 inches, and it's speed safe, of course. And then we have the Flourish. The Flourish is, I think, going to be interesting. Looks like it's going to be a liner lock, and we've got carbon fiber overlay and a really nice looking blade. We'll just have to see what happens whenever that one comes out. 3 1/2 inch blade. I think it's going to be a pretty one. We'll see how well it works whenever it actually arrives. From there we have the Malt and the Hops. This is the Malt, the bigger of the two, and it's, I say bigger, I think it's a 3 inch blade, yes. 3 inch blade. I'm not real hip on the design here, but it does have a bottle opener on it, and you know how I feel about those. They're convenient. And it has an interesting blade shape that I'd kind of like to check out. The Hops is the smaller version. Not too terribly interested in this one. I think that hook on that one would just be a pain and would get in the way. And it's also a very, very small knife at a blade length of 1.4 inches. That we might get a hold of one and see what there is there. Now from there, probably the most interesting knife in the 2017 lineup, if this thing comes to fruition, it's going to be terribly interesting, is the Natrix. And if you know the history of the 777 and the Matrix from Anthony Mariform and the 0770, you know, there's some history behind this knife. Little squabbles here and there about all three, or the two knives before it from Kai Industries and the Matrix from Mariform. But the blade shape on this knife is what makes it really cool. This blade shape that they have on the 0770 is just a wonderful blade shape for everyday tasks. And it's going to be a very pretty knife too. Speed safe, of course. It's going to have one of those two-piece locks and a deep carry clip. So this one, if it comes to fruition, we'll get one of these to look at it. I think it is a shorter blade at 3 1/4. Yeah, 3 1/4 inches, but that one should be interesting. The only other really interesting things from Kershaw are the Launch 7, and this is interesting because of the handle design and the clip point blade. I haven't been a big fan of Kershaw's autos to this point, but I think this one's going to be somewhat interesting. I don't know if we'll get one in or not, but we may. And for you shuffle guys, they gave us a shuffle with a bit holder in the back of it, and a couple of places to put bits here. Could be a very useful knife. I'm just not a big shuffle fan, so, you know, we might get one to look at, but we'll see. And from there, next up we have the Spyderco Sliver. And this one I'm interested in. I don't know enough about it yet to tell you I'm going to buy it or not, or that we're going to have one for review, but love the blade shape. It's got the flipper in it. It's got that Ouroboros style handle. Beautiful. If everything adds up right with the, you know, it needs to have bearings or some phosphor bronze washers or something in it to facilitate good action. And if all that comes together, yes, we will get one of these to look at unless Spyderco prices it ridiculously like they did the Ouroboros. Next up we have the Steel Will Cut Jack. And this is a very interesting knife. This one shown here is the D2 model. It's going to come in D2 and M390. The M390 model, I believe, has carbon fiber on it and comes with M390 blade steel, and the MSRP is for about $180, so you're looking at a street price of probably $140, $150. The D2 model is MSRPing at $50, and it does not have bearings in it. But if they got everything square on the knife, that ought to be fine, and we ought to have a really cool knife. I'm going to try to pre-order one of these so we can get a good look at it. Is it really anything special? Well, I don't know yet. It's your basic knife, but I think the steel will should give us a nice, well-done knife. It should be well-built, and even without the bearings and just the phosphor bronze washers, it should be just a great knife. We'll see. The one thing I did see is that they're running their D2 at 59 to 60, I believe it was, and that is a little soft for D2, so we'll have to see how that works out. But other than that, I think this cut jack is going to be at least an interesting knife. Now, going through the ZTs, like I said, we're only doing what interests me. Now, the 0055, the knife itself doesn't interest me, but it has an interesting mechanism that I may want to check out. And it's kind of a spring-loaded flipper thing, and I'm not sure exactly how it works, but maybe we'll find out as the year moves on and ZT gets these things out to where people can get a hold of them. Other than that, ZT just really didn't have anything I was terribly interested in. I know the 0850 down here, some of you guys are going to be interested in that. And the 920 is going to make a great EDC knife, in my opinion. It's just uninspiring. And it also has a recurve, which I'm not a fan of. But I do think it's going to make a great EDC knife for those that are willing to sharpen the recurve. But, it's a big knife, almost 4 inches, and just, I don't know. It's uninspiring to me, but I know some of you will like it. And the 0460, I would rather have the 450. There's just something that doesn't do it for me on the 0460, kind of swoopy, I don't know. Just doesn't do it for me. But anyhow, moving on along from ZT, I cannot pronounce the guy's name that designed this thing from Fox Knives, and actually he makes custom versions of this. Toshio Busha, or I don't know. All I know is the dude makes really, really cool knives. And if Fox Knives gets this thing out at a reasonable price, this thing is going to be great. It's the Fox Phoenix. And wow, it's just going to be super cool, and hopefully we can get our hands on one. From there, we have the SOG batons. Now, these things are kind of cool. They are a set of pliers, they come apart to make a set of pliers. They have either stuff in one end or both ends of them that folds out just like your standard multi-tool. But whenever you're not using it, instead of folding up into a big fat thing, it folds up into something that's about a little less than twice as thick as a carpenter's pencil and has a pocket clip on it. And we'll just have to see how that works. Whenever these are released, I will try to get a hold of one of these, because I think this is a real interesting take on the multi-tool. It's not going to be as heavy duty as some of the ones that, like your standard Gerbers and whatnot, but I think it's going to be really interesting. And then we get to CRKT, and I have very little interest in any of the Ruger stuff. Don't know why, it just doesn't appeal to me. But they have some other things here. They have this bombastic, and I know there's several of you that are interested in this, and I clicked on the serrated one, probably shouldn't have done that, but anyhow, it's a flipper, but whenever it's folded up, it does have a deep carry pocket clip designed by Ken Onion, and whenever it's folded up, it has that appearance of the old school stiletto. And then on top of that, it has a nice spear point blade sharpened on one side, so it's legal just about everywhere, and what's probably going to be a pretty ergonomic handle design. So these are going to be interesting. The only part that gets me is they've got them priced pretty high, and it's got 8CR13 MOV in it, so we'll have to see what happens with that whenever they come available. The other big push that CRKT has this year are the home front knives, and they have a whole bunch of them, different blade shapes, different colors, And they're all basically the same handle with a different blade shape in them. And the new blades, though, are disappointing. They're made out of that 1.4116 steel. And it's right in there with the Aus 8 that this blade's made out of. It's okay stuff, but for the price points, it's not what I would like to see. You have the copacetic here. This is one that may be pretty cool. It's kind of a small knife, but I think that one may be kind of cool. The crossbones, this is a cool looking knife, and it would be wonderful, but CRKT is hampering it with Aus 8 steel. And then they're gonna, it's MSRP at 99 bucks, so it's probably gonna actually sell for something like, 80 bucks, and that's just way too much. And last up from CRKT, the stuff that I thought was interesting are these directive knives. There's a kind of a drop point, and then there's this reverse tanto. And it's kind of a sheep's foot with a reverse tanto. And if this one comes to fruition and everything works well on it, I think this one's going to be really interesting and really cool. Got a big forward finger choil. Looks like a pretty nicely designed handle. And there's MSRPing it at 50 bucks, so we're probably looking at $30, $35. And it's 8CR13 MOV, so it's right in there. And it is probably going to be a really, really cool little knife. I think what was the blade length on it? Right at, it's 3.5 inches, so it's not a real small. But I think that one is going to be really cool. I'm kind of excited to see that one. And anyhow, guys, those were the highlights that I got out of SHOT Show. And there were a lot of knives out there, and I know I missed some, and whenever I was looking through to make this video, I'm sure I missed even more. But those were the ones that stood out to me whenever I went back and started looking. If you saw anything that I missed, or if you were interested in something here that I may not have been too interested in, let me know, and we'll try to get a hold of some of these and get a look at them as they get released. Anyhow, guys, you have a wonderful day. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.